Now, I know you guys on the left, those of you who listen to my show, under the pillow with a flashlight so nobody knows. I know you hate this man. I know you hate his guts. I know you think he's a racist and a sexist and a homophobe and a xenophobe and have I left anything out? A Hitler and a Stalin and a Nazi. And he is violating the Emoluments Clause, says AOC. He should have been kicked out of office, says Mitt Romney. I get it. But do you think during the time of the swine flu that the Obama administration dealt with, do you think if Obama had, God forbid, contracted the swine flu, there would have been people standing outside of Walter Reed chanting, I hope he dies? Do you think? Do you think if during the swine flu that the Obama administration had to deal with, had he contracted it, a comedian like Chris Rock would have opened a Saturday Night Live skit with the following?
Before we even get started, let's say the elephant in the room. President Trump's in the hospital from COVID, and I just want to say my heart goes out to COVID.
President's in the hospital from COVID. I just want to say my heart goes out to COVID and the laughter. Now, there was some canned laughter. They had to jack it up because it wasn't all that funny. They often sweeten the laughter now, so it's not entirely clear how many people laughed in the studio, but certainly it was perceived to be funny. You remember John Wayne, the actor? John Wayne was talking about how the left has called him right-wing. He said, I never thought of myself as being right-wing. I thought of myself as being liberal. And he talked about the influence of the liberals on the media. And he talked about socialism. But he said, I never thought of myself as right-wing. I thought of myself as liberal.
It's a funny thing, the Indians now, this AIM group have started something that now they're against me for some reason. But I am the only man in pictures that always gave them their human dignity. I never was in a picture. I never allowed myself at any time to do anything that would take their human dignity away from them. And that, to me, is the most important thing in a man's. I have found that a certain type that calls himself a liberal, I always thought I was a liberal. I came up terribly surprised one time when I found that I was a right-wing conservative extremist when I have listened to everybody's point of view that I ever met and then decide how I should feel. I mean, but this so-called new liberal group, Jesus, they never listen to your point of view, and they make a decision as to what you think, and they're articulate enough and in control of enough of the press to force that image out for the average person.
Now, he said they're in control enough of the press, and that's before the dominance that the left now has on our media.
For some reason, maybe it's these pictures, they have not been able to do that with me. In spite of what they say, people have not taken sides that I'm it hasn't affected my career in popularity, let's say. In spite of the fact that they've tried to make it do it. There isn't a hell of a lot that we can do to change human behavior. We keep making laws to try and change human behavior. You can't do it. I think you can accept it and feel how you would feel in that position.
As far as when this was recorded, reportedly around 1975 or so.
You're being conned into Keynesianism and socialism now. But it isn't going to stop the selfishness of human behavior. It isn't going to stop the greed. If you take $20 and give $1 to every son of a bitch in a room, and come back a year later, one of the bastards will have most of the money. I mean, it's just human nature, and you're not gonna whip it with a lot of laws. I think when you make people conscious, as communication gets better, and you make people conscious of somebody in trouble, starving or something like that, the average person will help. But of course now they've got so damn many charities, and there's so much professionalism. You know, there's if you have a charity, you hire some professionals to work up the charity. By the time you get the money, you get $4 for the recipient and $400 for the administrators. So I mean, Christ, I think there are people who try to affect a thinking where they know more than some other son of a bitch, and try to put a false impression on what human nature is. Christ's sakes, we have proven that we go back to hope at the first opportunity. Just throw out a little fish and bam, they're out there ready to grab it. So we are optimistic. We have to be optimistic. Christ, what else would there be in life if you lose optimism?
That was John Wayne, 1973, and about optimism. That's precisely why Donald Trump allegedly downplayed the so-called coronavirus pandemic. He's trying to project an image of optimism because he appreciates something that people on the left just do not, and that is life involves trade-offs. And one of the unfortunate trade-offs of shutting down the economy, greater alcoholism, to say nothing of unemployment, to say nothing of bankruptcies, child abuse, spousal abuse, depression, suicide. These things also have to be taken into consideration. And remember the advice he was given. This is Dr. Fauci on 60 Minutes, March 8th, questioning the effectiveness of wearing a mask.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask, and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill.
When we come back, leftists chant, F Trump outside Walter Reed Hospital. Can you imagine anybody in the country such a chant if Barack Obama had contracted the swine flu? 888-971-SAGE. I am Larry Elder. The president, as I mentioned, has contracted COVID-19, as has the First Lady, as has the Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, and the president was taken to Walter Reed, where he stayed a couple of nights, and he's out now. The criticism, of course, is that the president has ignored the gravity of the coronavirus, and now, it's come back to haunt you. No, he hasn't ignored the gravity. He's understood the gravity. He also understands the gravity of the consequences of shutting down the economy, as I mentioned, not just bankruptcy, not just loss of income, not just loss of job, but also suicides. You don't have kids reporting on instances where they're abused at home the way you do when they're going to school. The loss of learning for all these kids, many of whom are already behind. Now, as I said earlier, can you imagine if during the swine flu pandemic that the Obama administration had to deal with, it actually wasn't a pandemic, but had he contracted it, can you imagine if a bunch of people surrounded Walter Reed Hospital and did this?
He don't wear his mask. He don't wear his mask. He don't wear his mask.
Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia.
This is outside Walter Reed Hospital.
He He's dying. He's dying. He's dying. Your hair mad dry. Your hair mad dry. You need to put some conditioner in your hair. Okay. You think I give a What's good? Your president is dying.
Your president is dying. Ha 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 ha.
You're dying. Stop. He's dying.
Okay. You want to see the rest of it's up on LarryElder.com. Now, the other thing for people that are accusing President Trump of ignoring the gravity of the coronavirus, again, imagine if this were Barack Obama giving all this advice about what to do, and Anthony Fauci goes on 60 Minutes as late as March 8th and says there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. You've got Nancy Pelosi in February telling people to come on down to Chinatown. This is after President Trump has restricted travel to China. After that, 2 weeks after that, you have Nancy Pelosi. 3 weeks after that, Nancy Pelosi in Chinatown telling people to come on down. She wasn't wearing a mask either. Now, there is a study, UCLA study, that suggests COVID was in America months earlier than previously thought.
This comes as UCLA researchers say there was a significant increase in patients with coughs and acute respiratory illnesses beginning in late December. They say this could mean that COVID-19 was in the area months before the first cases were identified.
We knew early on that there were some early deaths where autopsies showed potential COVID infections in the month of January. So I can't speak to whether we are convinced yet today that it was milling around California in December.
So China lies about when they first discovered the coronavirus. China lies about whether or not it's human-to-human virus that is transmitted human-to-human. China lies to the World Health Organization that repeats the lies. The experts aren't even convinced when COVID-19 came here. You have some researchers at UCLA suggesting it was in the country months earlier than we thought. And it's Donald Trump for not somehow having a national standard to deal with this. And I want to remind you of what Joe Biden's advisor, Ron Klain, said. Ron Klain was his advisor in the White House during the time the Obama-Biden administration dealt with the swine flu. Here's what he said.
I just had a couple things. I mean, I was in the White House in 2009, 2010. I was working for Vice President Biden. I wasn't involved directly in the H1N1 response, but I lived through it as a White House staffer. And what I will say about it is a bunch of really talented, really great people working on it, and we did every possible thing wrong. And it's, 60 million Americans got H1N1 in that period of time, and it's just purely a fortuity that this isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history.
888-971-SAGE. He said it was purely luck. 888-971-SAGE. 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. I think your comment's spot on. By the way, have I told you how much I love my MyPillow? Changed my sleep. Ditto with the new MyPillow mattress topper. Get a MyPillow mattress topper. You're going to get some of the best sleep of your life. Comes with a 10-year warranty and a cover you can wash and dry. Made right here in the country. Back with Mike Lindell's 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com. Save 30%. Use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843. When you do, Mike gives you 2 standard MyPillows for free. MyPillow.com. Promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843. That's 800-890-1843. Now, there's nothing this man can say, that will appease much of the country. They hate his guts to a degree, as I said before, I've never seen before. "25% of the Democrat congressional delegation did not come to his inauguration." Think about that. This is before any of the collusion stuff. Did not come to his inauguration because they thought he was just, too awful to attend. Several of these Democrats, including, as I mentioned before, John Lewis, never attended any of his State of the Union speeches. In fact, after Trump got elected, John Lewis publicly called him illegitimate. Hillary called him illegitimate. Majority of Democrats believe not that the Russians interfered with the election. The majority of Democrats believe that the Russians literally change vote tallies with zero evidence that they did so. Over 80%, according to one poll, of Democrats believe that Donald Trump is a racist. 60% of Democrats believe all Republicans are racist, sexist, bigoted. This is where we are. So Donald Trump contracts COVID-19, and you literally have Chris Rock opening up a Saturday Night Live with this.
Before we even get started, let's hey, the elephant in the room. President Trump's in the hospital from COVID, and I just want to say my heart goes out to COVID.
Watching a lot of CNN and MSNBC this weekend, of course, so you don't have to. And all this back and forth on how secretive the White House allegedly is about the president's health. We just don't know. They bring on Carl Bernstein of Woodward Bernstein fame, and he accuses the president of being, and I'm quoting him, homicidally negligent in his response to the coronavirus. Homicidally negligent. Wow. You know that Woodrow Wilson, during the time of the so-called Spanish flu, contracted the Spanish flu, recovered from it, and then, by the way, had a stroke, which he never really fully recovered from. And in both cases, the public was not informed of him contracting the Spanish flu, nor of him having the stroke. In fact, his wife arguably was the first female president ever. Jack Kennedy was not honest about his health concerns. He had something called Addison's disease, which, had it been disclosed to the public, might very well have meant that he would not have been elected. He hid that from people. Turns out Ronald Reagan was injured far more severely by the attempted assassin than we initially thought. The nation never knew that FDR was in a wheelchair. Members of the press did, obviously. They saw him. But the general public did not know. So it is not uncommon for presidents to conceal injuries, illnesses from the general public. It's happened. It will continue to happen for all sorts of reasons. They don't want to give any advantage to their political enemies. They don't want to project an image of weakness. They don't want foreign enemies to take advantage of us. There's all sorts of reasons. And, of course, this is an election time. And everything is seen through the prism of the election that's coming up now in less than 30 days. It does appear that the second debate between the president and Joe Biden is still on. We'll see about that. But the president was fully aware of the risks. He did not want to lock down the world, did not want to lock down the economy, and was being a symbol of that, and is still a symbol of that. Josh is in Sherman Oaks, California. Josh, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Wow. Yeah. All right.
Josh, you're on. Turn your radio down.
All right.
Okay, Josh.
Hey, Larry, big fan.
Thank you.
Hey, Larry, big fan. Very pleasure to talk to you. I had a question. So this Breitbart article came out on the 3rd, 2 days ago, and it mentioned that you've been appointed by the Trump administration to be the member of Commission on Social Status of Black Men and Boys. And I was really excited to hear that, but I wanted to get more of one-on-one just to see what it actually means and what does this mean for you?
Hold up. Well, Josh, thank you very much for that. Here's an article that somebody sent me. This is from Radio Inc. Trump calls on Elder. Yeah. I was in the stock room. Phone rang. Trump said he needed me. I threw on my cape, my uniform, and I just flew right to Washington, D.C. Quote, President Trump announced he has appointed Salem Radio Network host Larry Elder as a member of the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. The commission, signed into law by President Trump on August 14, 2020, was established to study and make recommendations to the president to address conditions affecting black men and boys. In accepting the presidential appointment, Larry Elder says that so many children, particularly black children, are raised without fathers in the home is our nation's most pressing domestic problem. Former President Barack Obama said that a child raised without a father in the home is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. Elder adds, we need to ask ourselves if we are incentivizing women to marry the government and if we are incentivizing men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility, end of quote. The Larry Elder Show is heard, yada, 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 yada.
Thank you, Larry Elder.
Thank you. And a number of them also. Here's another one. Trump appoints Larry Elder, Tom Fenton to the Trump administration. This is in Breitbart. Here's another one. Nominations and appointments. President Trump announces intent to appoint individuals to key administration posts. This is from the White House itself. And the mentions today, President Trump announced his intent to appoint the following individuals to key positions in the administration. Thomas Fenton of the District of Columbia to be a member of the District of Columbia Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure. Tom Fenton is the head of Judicial Watch. Lawrence Allen Elder. Do you guys know my middle name is Allen? Lawrence Allen Elder of California to be a member of the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Lauren Robert Flom of New York to be a member of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council. And Bill H. Stern of Southern California to be a member of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council. So those are the individuals that the president has announced his intention to appoint to key administration posts, and I'm very, very honored and flattered that I was contacted some time ago and asked if I would be willing to do this. In order to be considered, you have to fill out a very, very long background form. I mean, this thing is pages and pages and pages. Have you ever been arrested for a crime? No. You ever been tax lien for non-payment of taxes? No. Ever filed for bankruptcy? No. Ever done any foreign lobbying? No. Ever worked on behalf of a foreign government? No. You ever been on a commission of any other administration? No. Have you ever done anything which, if it became public, would cause embarrassment to you or to the administration? So I wrote, do you mean lately? As you heard, I hope to focus on the fact that 70% of kids raised without fathers is by far the number one problem facing the Black America. Not this business about institutional racism and systemic racism and the other nonsense that the media and these so-called activists have people focused on to the exclusion of what the big problem is. Chris Rock began his opening on Saturday Night Live by saying, I want to address the elephant in the room. President Trump has COVID, and I want to say my heart goes out to COVID, ha, ha, ha. Well, the elephant in the room is the fact that the number one problem facing Black America, indeed facing the country, is a number of kids raised without fathers. It's not just a Black problem, it's an American problem. 50% of Hispanic kids are raised without fathers. 25% of white kids are. That's the number that triggered a booklet called The Negro Family, A Case for National Action in 1965 by a guy that later on ran for and got elected to the Senate as a Democrat, Daniel Patrick Moynihan. He said 25% of Black kids were raised outside of wedlock. This is back in 1965, and said that number was horrific. Well, now 25% of white kids are raised outside of wedlock. It is the number one problem facing the country, and frankly, neither party is talking about it, not until this administration set up this commission to do something about it.
What we've been doing is looking at the data.
And I mentioned Obama, but it's also Tupac Shakur. He said in that documentary called Resurrection, had I had a father, I would have been more disciplined. I would have had more confidence, end of quote. These are two people that the left love, Barack Obama and Tupac, and they're both saying that not having fathers in the home is a serious, serious problem.
I hate saying this because white people love hearing Black people talk about this. I know for a fact that had I had a father, I'd have had some discipline. I'd have had more confidence. Your mother cannot calm you down the way a man can. Your mother can't reassure you the way a man can. You know, my mother couldn't show me where my manhood was. So you need a man to teach you how to be a man.
Sounds like somebody from Focus on the Family saying that, isn't it? It's 888-971-SAGE. Now, speaking of films, I want to talk to you about Dinesh D'Souza's film. It's called Trump Card, and it's an expose of socialism, corruption, and gangsterism that defines the modern Democratic Party. Whether we're talking about the creeping socialism of Joe Biden or the overt socialism of Bernie Sanders, the film reveals what's unique about modern socialism, who's behind it, why it's evil, and how we can work with President Trump to stop it. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Stakes are high, the battle lines stark. And this new film by Dinesh D'Souza explains why, as only Dinesh can. So watch it today at salemnow.com before it's released to the public. Do not miss this important new film by Dinesh D'Souza. Go to salemnow.com. Watch Trump Card today before it's released. That's salemnow.com, salemnow.com. Andrew is in Erie, Pennsylvania. Andrew, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Larry. Greetings from beautiful Erie, Pennsylvania.
Greetings.
Well, the reason why I called, honestly, I just want to, say that I'm very thankful for the way that President Trump has kind of set the example as far as how our country should really handle this disease. I think the liberals and the Democrats have gone way too far. It's almost like we can't walk and chew gum at the same time, to quote Obama. But it seems anymore the cure is going to be worse than the cold, and it's starting to worry me. My wife and I, we're staunch firmly in the middle class here, but we've had to switch our jobs around over the last few months, and we're making it. But who knows what's going to happen 6 months from now if we keep these shutdowns going here in Pennsylvania. It's been pretty rough.
Absolutely, Andrew. And again, as this UCLA study, we're not even sure when this stuff came. It might have come here 4 months or so earlier than previously thought.
This comes as UCLA researchers say there was a significant increase in patients with coughs and acute respiratory illnesses beginning in late December. They say this could mean that COVID-19 was in the area months before the first cases were identified.
We knew early on that there were some early deaths where autopsies showed potential COVID infections.
We come back. Senator Josh Hawley grilled James Comey. Do you regret your role in this unprecedented misuse of power?